celebrating 11 years of possibility. Pilot Flying J and Halloran Hilton Hill present Anything is Possible. Today's guest, Richard Rackley.
Welcome to another edition of Anything is Possible. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill, and Richard Rackley is my guest today. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right, so Fountainhead College of Technology, that's your business, that's your
Right.
enterprise, you're CEO and president.
Right.
But I want to start here.
Sure.
Are you ready?
Bring it on.
Are you ready?
There's no telling what you have in there.
Ranger Rick?
Well, actually, it's Ranger Rich.
Ranger Rich?
Yeah.
Who is Ranger Rich?
I didn't know you were going to start with that. I heard
Yeah, I
rumors
know
that
you
you might
did.
bring that up, but I guess that was back in the early 90s. I was on the local Fox affiliate introducing cartoons in the afternoons. And, you know, I would talk about...
I don't know. I don't know how that
Well,
happens.
it's on YouTube. You can go YouTube my name, and that's the first thing that pops up. The students at the college get a big kick out of that.
So what was Ranger Rich, and what was that? You introduced cartoons?
Yeah.
I understand that the whole club, you had a little club.
There's about 70,000 kids in that club. And, you know, we would do appearances at fast food restaurants or pizza places or whatever. And, I mean, how I got that gig was my sister, Teresa, was Ranger Terry. And I
Okay.
was in the Fox costume for a couple years. And then whenever she went out on maternity leave, they asked me to be Ranger Rich, and my brother then got in the Fox costume. So it's, you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
So you were a mascot?
Yeah.
Anything is possible, you do. Well, thank you for joining us on the broadcast. You know, when I think about what you guys have built over at Fountainhead, I think about the future, and that's really where I want to start. You are in an industry that is being driven forward by so much change. Just about the time we kind of get our hands around current technology,
Right.
they come out with Google Glass, or they come out with some whole new way to communicate or to move information, and that's the world that you're in.
Right.
My first question for you is, in running a college of technology, how could you ever stay current? How could you ever keep a group of people prepared for a marketplace that is changing every 15 minutes?
Well, luckily, lots of research. So I get to buy gadgets, and I get to play with all sorts of new technologies when they come out. And I surround myself with subject matter experts. So people that are in the field, some of them are graduates, some of them are just people that own their own businesses or whatever. And we get them out to the college twice a year as a program advisory committee to make sure that we're keeping our equipment up to date, that we're teaching the things that are important for the next generation of jobs that are coming out.
Where's the money right now?
Well, you know, still with cybersecurity, digital
Yeah.
forensics, that's really hot. And then, you know, if we have computers, you got to have applications to go on them. So we still do well with the computer programming programs that we have. We've moved also into health information technology.
Right.
You know, the last time we went to the doctor's office, they probably had an iPad or some kind of handheld tablet or something like that. And, you know, I never knew these doctor's offices had this much space because they were full of files for so long. But now they have lots of open space and everything's on the computer. And so we're teaching the next generation of employees for that as well, to deal with all that data.
Richard Rackley, college president.
Right.
Did you ever foresee this?
Well, when I was in high school, if you ask my friends, which I'm from Knoxville, I went to high school at Bearden, they remember me saying I'm never going to work at the college because it's a family business. My father was a president since the 70s, and I started working there in the early 90s after I graduated from there in the late 80s. And you know, one thing led to another, and it just seemed like it would make sense.
Why did you declare at first, I'm not doing that?
Well, because everyone wants to go blaze their own trail and do their own thing.
How much are you like your dad?
Well, if you ask anyone in my family, you know, I'm a carbon copy. And so, which I take as a compliment. He and I have a great relationship.
So then what are you a copy of? What are the characteristics of your father? What's he like?
Well, now he's just a happy grandpa. But,
Really?
But before, I guess he was, he worked a lot and was always, I don't know, I guess goal-driven. And, you know, he just kind of got into electronics by being in the Air Force, and I'm glad he did. And that just led to teaching at a technical school. It used to be Tennessee Institute of Electronics. And, you know, so growing up, he was always bringing technology home for me to play with. I still have a small group of friends that count my bedroom as the first time they ever saw a computer.
Which was which computer?
It was an Apple II Plus.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember the TRS-80?
I had a TRS-80, a Trash 80, yeah. Had a Commodore 64 and a VIC-20 and all that good stuff.
Yeah. All right, so how did your father come to have the school?
Right place at the right time.
What happened?
Well, I think that there was actually a buy-sell agreement with some other people, and someone backed out, and he stepped up. He was an instructor there at the time. So in my earliest memory of visiting my father at work is at Tennessee Institute of Electronics. So I'm sure, had other jobs, but in my mind, that's all I know, yeah.
The interesting thing about, and I've talked to a number of people who have family businesses that move through generations. Mm-hmm. If Daddy built it, I mean, I'm not saying he built it, he stepped in, but
right.
he took it to a much higher level than it had been at.
Right.
That's his baby.
Right.
And there are a lot of father CEOs that have a rising son or daughter.
Right.
This is their baby, and they want you to run their dream as opposed to take their dream and then make it your dream. Did
right.
you guys ever have any, this is my baby, you're going to do it my way?
Well, I think by the time we got to we call it the succession plan, by the time we got to that, I'd kind of proven that I knew what was going on. So we had one program in electronics since 1947. And then I graduated from that program in the 80s and came back and started teaching that program in the early 90s while I was going to UT. And after teaching for 5 years, I was burned out. I just couldn't do it anymore. And so it was suggested that, you know, before I started teaching, I was a computer technician. And, you know, that was back when Windows 3.11 and DOS
right.
6.22 and all that happened. I basically took my experiences and put it into an associate degree in information technology. And we had standing room only the first couple semesters that it was offered. And that was before any other school had any training like that. Up until then, if you're an electronics guy, you're now the computer guy. And whether you had computer training or not, you know, that's how it was in the early 90s. Once that program took off, that program started in, I believe, late 98, early 99. And, you know, it was just gangbusters from there on out because that program was such high demand, and the prospective students that were coming in, they got it. They saw what we were doing.
And they jumped right in.
And I surrounded myself with subject matter experts then as well, because there were still things I didn't know. I'm pretty good at knowing what I don't know.
Let's take a quick break.
Sure.
My guest is Ranger Rich. This is Anything is Possible.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up,
our placement rate, which means how long it takes or what percentage of people get a job within 90 days of graduation. It's not gone below 94% in the last 4 years.
Welcome back to Anything is Possible. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill, and my guest is Richard Rackley. He's CEO and president of Fountainhead College of Technology. Thank you for being here. Let's talk about your philosophy of technology.
Right. Well, so in preparing all this curriculum I've done over the years, I've discovered that it takes 40 years for a culture to adopt a technology. And so you can use the telephone as an example. It took 40 years before everyone had a phone. And even then, some of them were still party lines. The automobile took 40 years before they were, you know, in every garage, okay? So if you look at that and look at the computer, it came out really in 1984. And so we're not even through that 40-year cycle yet. And think about how the computer's evolved. You really can't think of a computer as a tower and a monitor anymore. You think it's in your phone.
It's in your hand.
Yeah, and so really the CPU, the central processing unit, think how that has changed our lives, and we're not even through that 40-year cycle yet. And then if you jump up to 1994, that's really when the internet became usable, you know. And so we're just barely into that cycle as well, and think about how much we rely on the internet. So that's why I feel like there's always new opportunity in technology. You know, you mentioned Google Glass earlier. When those come out, that's going to be a whole new boom.
It's a game changer.
It's a whole new boom that's going to start. It's going to take 40 years before people until everyone has that.
Might I, and you are the technology expert, but might I mix it up a little bit with you, my good Ranger? So I would buy it takes 40 years for people to catch up. And in fact, in world history, no matter what the technology, there were technologies that presented themselves, but society wasn't ready for them.
Television, for example.
However, we've had a generation now of young people who don't have technology aversion.
Right.
They are early adapters and they are quick adapters. And Moore's Law basically says every 15 months this stuff is turning over. So since we now have a new class of consumers and individuals that don't have resistance, might that cycle shorten from 40 years to maybe 20 years?
Sure, that would be great. And I guess when using Google Glass as an example, it might take 40 years before the CPU is in every article of clothing.
Gotcha.
Okay. Whereas, you know,
when
Google Glass comes out, how affordable will it be? Will just the early adopters get it? Will every kid in high school get it? Will it replace the tablets? Who knows? But you know, that's going to be the first step of having a computer in clothing. Basically, it's going to start with glasses, but before long, it'll be on a personal area network on your body where everything communicates. And you know, for what reason?
And it's coming.
Yeah, but for what reason? Right now, we might not be able to think of that many good reasons why we need that, but each piece of technology will explain itself as it presents itself.
You know what I'm trying to figure out, and this is a fascinating conversation to me, and it is a possibility conversation, because here you are, CEO and president of a really fast-growing, highly adaptive communication college of technology. And I understand that you're doing stuff in Washington and all over the place. You're a leader in this field. You were in a fox costume as a mascot. So when did you shift that gear? Because there's probably a gear that had to shift where you went from, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try that, to honing in and focusing and doing the thing that you at first didn't think you wanted to do.
You know, I went to UT and first started studying marketing. Well, actually, I first started in electrical engineering, but then I'm like, okay, I don't want this chemistry class. So, so there's still hope if you don't like chemistry, you know. But so I got into marketing and public relations, and then my last year is when I kind of focused on, I'm going to stay at the college. And I changed my major to education. And I thought it was interesting that all those marketing courses I had transferred right over into education, because it's really just selling an idea.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Whether you're selling a product or a concept to a classroom, it's all about presentation skills and being able to organize thoughts. And so, you know, that's where I decided I was going to stay here.
Did you show up and did you become a really great teacher? Do you love teaching?
I do. I do.
Is teaching technology different than teaching English Lit?
Yeah, a little bit, just because you know, it's easy to make the leap to how you're going to use this skill set. Whereas, and we teach English in the bachelor programs, and obviously you have to have English to communicate, and then you have to have mathematics and all these other classes that we have in the bachelor program. But the way it works in our associate programs, it's pretty much just the technology. Okay.
Right.
And so the teaching the technology, everything kind of presents the next level. You know,
it's building blocks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and you can see why you have to have this skill. Whereas when we get to the bachelor level, we explain to the students that, you know, you're going to be making documents that might not be looked at for a decade. So you have to have good writing skills and be clear and concise. And, you know, so we try to connect that. All of our general ed courses are related to technology in somehow, you know, in some way, to make it a little bit more relevant. And like even our psychology courses are, you know, workplace psychology. So you can deal with your coworkers and your boss and your subordinates.
So you're really trying to equip people to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Yeah. Functional knowledge that works in the marketplace.
Right. I'm very proud. I mean, our placement rate, which means how long it takes, or what percentage of people get a job within 90 days of graduation. It's not gone below 94% in the last 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and those are great odds, you know, if you're looking for a college. You mentioned Washington, D.C. One of the things that we're kind of become known for is we're a center of academic excellence in information assurance education. That means we mapped our curriculum to the Department of Defense and the NSA's requirements. And so when our graduates get out of our bachelor program, they get 6 certifications from the NSA, things like senior system analyst and security officers and things like that, just blows the doors open for them.
My guest is Richard Rackley. We'll be back with more. This is Anything is Possible.
Coming up.
They're there to learn a trade and get to work as soon as possible. And so if there's anything we can cut out of the way to help them make that transition quicker, we do.
I wish you could be behind the scenes here at Anything is Possible. We have a great time. We got a great crew. Richard Rackley is here with us today. Tell me a little bit more about the Centers of Excellence.
Right.
Before you answer this question, are you a nerd? We'll get to that in just a moment.
Well, okay, Center of Academic Excellence in Information Assurance Education. I mentioned that that's a designation from the NSA, National Security Agency, and the Department of Homeland Security. And I'm very proud of this. We are one of about 200 schools nationwide that have this designation, and we're one of 3 in the state of Tennessee. And then on a national level, we're one of 11 schools that award all 6 certifications. So, and our path it's a straight path through our curriculum. Whereas in a lot of universities, and the other schools that do this are major universities, you would take your major courses and then you might have to take a few other side courses in order to get these certifications. So we've kind of got it down to a science, and that's part of our appeal to the people that are wanting into cybersecurity.
Right, and it's opportunity cost because you don't waste time.
Right.
Right. Are you a nerd?
Yeah, I'm a nerd. I'm a geek. I really like Star Wars.
Is this the age of the geek? Whoa, well, let me stop
so.
there for a second. Do you dress up?
Sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
As which character?
Well, sometimes I've been Obi-Wan Kenobi. Most of the time, Obi-Wan Kenobi, I guess. Because in my little group of friends, I've got someone else that looks more like Luke Skywalker and someone else that looks more like Han Solo, and I need a tall guy to be Chewbacca. I've got all these costumes.
So you do team dress up?
Yeah, well, we bought a life-size, fully functional R2-D2 at the college because he really represents a lot of the technologies we teach. You know, wireless technology, robotics, stuff like that. And if you think about it, back in 1977, when we all saw Princess Leia put the little data chip or whatever she had into him to store the Death Star plans,
right.
Well, that was our first experience with a secure hard drive, right? I mean, we didn't have flash drives back then.
My man.
This is 1977. So, you know, that's my excuse. You know, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That's why we have him. And you know, we take him out to different functions, and sometimes we get some students and or some employees to dress up.
By the way, he is only CEO now.
Right, yeah. I have the guy that looks best in the Darth Vader costume, Marty Rogers, is our president now. He's been with us for about 13 years.
This is interesting. All right, so let me ask you about this. We've talked technology, we've talked the college. Let's talk a little bit about you, because it seems almost like a silver spoon story. If we do the short edit, it would be, Daddy had the college.
Right.
I was goofing off at UT. I thought, well, I'm not going to go out there and work hard. I'll just put on my Star Wars costume, go over and take the college from Daddy.
Now, my first 2 jobs were fast food.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
And has the college ever gone through tough times? I mean,
of course.
What's the toughest thing you've had to overcome?
Of course. I mean, right now we're going through a tough time as we've relocated to West Knoxville.
Really?
And so a little bit of that is starting over, but we needed to be where there was just more people to draw from, and we're right there at the crossroads of I-40, I-75, and Pulaski Parkway and Interstate 140. So. We can just have access to more students and make our training available and more accessible to more students.
Do you believe that anything is possible?
Absolutely. I started in a fox costume.
You just
I've delivered pizzas, I've worked in restaurants, I've done a wide range of jobs.
So you've had a lot of interesting jobs, fox costume, fast food. What's the most interesting?
Other than the one I have now, I guess for about a year and a half, I was a show host on a Shop at Home network, which used to be over on Merchants. And I would sell fine art and jewelry and plumbing parts, satellite dish equipment. That was when they were only a satellite signal.
Right.
And
sell that cup.
Sell the cup.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have this lovely porcelain cup with black lettering and a nice red handle. And what you may not be able to see from home is there's a great red ring around the top. So we're going to put a timer up on the screen, and the first 10 people to order get 2 cups.
That's sweet. I love it. I'll take 2. And it's a pilot cup.
That's right.
Not a bad thing. That's pretty snazzy.
Well, I wasn't prepared, so I could have maybe done better, but
I think you just gave me the Ranger Rich laugh. I think you just did. So tell me what you've learned about possibility and about what makes for success, especially as you are embracing the future, because you're training people for where we are now.
Right. Well, no, I'm training them for the future.
What are the fundamentals of success in this age that you've learned, that you've personally engaged?
Right. Well, you know, the cliche is true. It's not, okay, I'll say it like this. It's not what you know, it's who you know. But you got to know the right stuff for when you meet that right person. Okay?
What's the right stuff now?
Well,
and talk character and curriculum.
Well, you know, there's, you have to be a man of your word. You have to show up on time. You have to follow up. You have to do what you say. And, you know, I tell my friends, I don't sugarcoat stuff. I'm going to tell you how it is, but that's going to be better for you in the long run, okay? Our students are there, they're not there for a traditional college experience. They're not there for fraternity parties or football games. Those are all great, but we don't have that at Fountainhead. They're there to learn a trade and get to work as soon as possible. And so if there's anything we can cut out of the way to help them make that transition quicker, we do.
Wow. What are the personal values that you live by?
I try to be honest, and I try to be forthcoming, and you know, I like to say that, you know, I'm a Jedi or whatever. I know I'm not really, but you know, to my friends, I try to be that guy that has the words of inspiration or a good idea to help them through a tough time or something like that.
So what's your favorite Star Wars quote then?
Oh, I got a bad feeling about this.
I don't have a bad feeling about this interview, though.
No.
Richard Rackley, thank you for being with us today.
Sure.
I wish I'd asked you to be in costume, because that would have been incredible. Would you at least tell me which of the Star Wars movies is your favorite?
Sure.
And have you ever been to a Star Wars convention?
I haven't been to a convention, although when I bring R2-D2 out downtown, it's almost like having a convention.
Right.
And my favorite, I guess, is Empire Strikes Back.
All right. Do you do any Star Wars impersonations?
No.
At least not here.
Well, I mean, you know.
All right. I'll let you off the hook. Richard Rackley, thank you for being here.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
You are proof positive. If he can go from a Fox costume to CEO of a technology college, anything is possible.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.